I'll see you guys in the dark.
To preface this, I'm an extremely introverted person who often overthinks things as well as often misses the point of things. I'm not at all confrontational and will never pick a fight. I'm the one to just stand in the corner and mind my own business. A few minutes ago, I went to the gas station and went inside. As I walked in, a well-dressed individual politely stopped me and read my shirt and asked if I went to that high school. I politely corrected him and said I went to so on and so forth high school instead. He introduced himself as Jim. Jim said he worked for a company and is looking for young people like me who are interested in business opportunities. It wasn't about 2 minutes into the conversation that I realized that this was some sort of scheme and that Jim wanted something from me. The topic arose about school, and I told Jim that I'm a full-time college student at whatever college. He asked how I was paying for college, and I said that I wasn't, but that my parents were. At this point, I just wanted to get away from this guy, but I wasn't going to tell him off. Instead, I just asked if I could have his contact info. Jim told me yeah. I didn't think twice not to give him my real info, but I did. I gave him my phone number and my first name, and he told me to be on the lookout for a phone call from his associate. We then parted ways. I now realize that this was some sort of shady scheme, and that I shouldn't have just given this random guy my personal information. So, what do you think? Is this guy going to come rob my house? Is he just a shady businessman running a Ponzi scheme? What can he do with that info that I gave him? Let me know your thoughts. On Memorial Day of this year, I started working at one of the 2 gas stations in my small New Hampshire town, which is about 20 miles outside our state capital. My town is basically the last line of civilization for about an hour if you're traveling on the highway, so we get a lot of traffic. We also have a lot of regulars. We have people who know by name and people who we may not know the names of, but we recognize them, and the transactions will go a lot quicker if I just ask, "Do you want your cigarettes today?" Or "Which scratch-off ticket are you thinking about getting?" Most of these regulars are just very kind to us. One even threatened to beat a guy who came in and tried to grab my coworker's hair when his card was declined. The person involved in this story was supposed to be one of those nice people. He was a guy whose name I never knew. He mostly came in during third shift, and I usually saw him when I was about to leave. For the sake of the story, we'll call him Matty. He was always very pleasant, and would always strike up a conversation with whoever was checking him out. The one I remember most vividly was us talking about all the reboots and sequels Hollywood keeps churning out. I want to work my way into the film industry someday, and become either a writer or a director, and we were talking about how I could start putting an end to the sequel fatigue. Yesterday night, I was cashing at my drawer after third shift had checked in, and was on his drawer. We had both been off for 3 days, and we were trying to catch each other up on what had happened over that time. Suddenly, the third shift guy brings up his open murder case. A woman from a town about 30 minutes up the highway had gone missing a while back, and then had been found dead in a washing machine that had been crudely dumped into a pond. He then brings up the fact that Matty was a prime suspect in the case. Matty was a bit of a druggie, and had some shady connections. Evidently, there was a rumor that he was into some fucked up things on the dark web, and had some brutal connections through there. I knew Matty had a drug issue, as he has told third shift guy, and one of my second shift coworkers about some of his rehab experiences, but had no idea about the shady connections part. One of the third shift guy's friends had also been put through the ringer by the cops, as he had gone out with the victim on a date only 2 nights before her disappearance. He wasn't ruled out as a suspect after a lot of questioning and looking through the evidence. Matty evidently told the other third shift worker that he was going out of town for a little while a few nights ago. I don't know if that part is true or not, as it has been passed on to me by a second shift worker who likes to gossip about everything she can. If it is true, I would definitely think he had something to do with it. When my dad told me I'd met some whacked individuals working this job, I believed him. I think this just cements that statement even more. A little over a year ago, I had a job working overnight at a gas station close to my house. I'm a woman and was 35 at the time. I know, to some it seems unsafe for a woman to work graveyard shift by herself. However, it was a slow store and the sheriff's office was about 20 feet across from it. I really don't think I would have had many problems. There would be about 30 customers in an 8-hour shift, and that was on a busier night. It was about 3:30 in the morning. I went outside to sweep the parking lot and last minute check the trash. It was time for a cigarette, and I had one headphone in, jamming out. Across the road in a parking lot of the sheriff's office, I saw a figure with his back to me. He was swaying back and forth while looking down. Honestly, it looked like he was enjoying a much-needed piss. Against the sheriff's office, though. Yeah, the building closed at 4 p.m. and didn't open up until 6 the next morning. But why? By the back of his ripped white t-shirt, I remembered that he had come in about 4 hours earlier. He was a total creep, and I could already tell he had a good buzz going. I didn't say anything. I just took my eye off him and tried not to draw attention to myself. It was working until a car pulled in. I was still outside and they pulled up. I saw him look at the car and then at me, and then back and forth. As the customer was leaving, I walked her outside. I still had half a smoke burning, and had left my dustpan outside with the squeegee. We both heard him start to swear angrily and seemingly engage in an argument with himself. She looked across the road and told me to be careful. I made an awkward joke about him being no one who should be more afraid of me, or something like that. The man was still there, but closer to the road, now facing the parking lot of my store. Whatever he was yelling was completely unintelligible. He was obviously very drunk and can barely stand straight, still swaying away. I didn't engage him, but I didn't take my eyes off him this time. I just slowly walked back into the store. Something about his face really bothered me. It had a darkness to it, but his eyes looked wild. My experience during graveyard jobs has been that the crazy-eyed ones are always the worst. I didn't like it at all, and wanted no part of it. I still had almost 3 hours to go, and 2 before any other employees got there. Instantly, I went to the computer and typed up a temporarily closed sign, just in case he wanted some trouble. I was coming around the counter on my way to the doors when I saw that he'd walk across the road to my side now. I literally just barely got the second door closed when he stumbled into our very small parking lot. My hand mimed the hand signal for cut across my neck, basically saying, "Nope, sorry, you can't come in here. We're closed." I shook my head back and forth, too, hoping to further discourage him. He started walking away, but screamed something at me while he's walking. I don't mean he was grumpy and shouted at me or yelled that I was an asshole or anything. I mean like an enraged volume, and was violently throwing his hands everywhere. Definitely knowing I'm in the wrong shift of the wrong job, I got really skeeved out about this. I decided to call the cops. It's a good thing, too, because the minute I hung up with them, there he comes again, up to the door. He starts pulling and banging on it. He backs up and runs into it trying to ram it. Not that it would have done any good, though. I made the mistake of telling him that I had called the cops, and his ass was about to be grassed. I say I made the mistake of telling him, because once I said that, he took off. The police never found him. They drove around the road and surrounding neighborhoods for over an hour, but found no one. He was on foot, so I don't know where he could have gone. He didn't harm me, and with them not finding him, I didn't file out a police report or anything. I was safe behind thick glass doors that were locked for the rest of my shift. It just sucked. Maybe if I hadn't warned him ahead of time, I wouldn't have had to spend the last 3 months of my job constantly looking over my shoulder. I'll never know what the right choice was. I'm just glad I don't work there anymore. My friends and I went to a festival near LA in August. My girlfriend and I take my car, and 4 of our friends take another. Our GPS app took us to 2 different routes, driving from LA back to San Francisco. We stopped for gas about 4 hours into the trip. My girl and I are standing around the car talking, letting the cold air wake us up before heading back out. Just as we're getting ready to go to an older pickup truck parks up next to us, and a dude gets out of the car and stares at my girlfriend. I open her door for her, and his eyes dart towards me. My girlfriend gets into the car and slams the door shut. So here I am, standing with this guy, waiting for something to happen. Do you believe in God? Great, I'm going to be murdered in front of my girlfriend. Not wanting to be upset with him, I put my personal views aside and said yes. What came out of his mouth for the next half hour were the most vile and twisted interpretations of the Bible I had ever heard. Things like, God only made gays as a sick test to test those faithful to him, or whores with tattoos will be playthings for those of us that reach heaven. And my personal favorite, the darker you are, the more sin you have to atone for in hell. I was very uncomfortable. My girlfriend had a full sleeve of tattoos on both arms, and we were both non-white. I'm starting to get upset, but not wanting to start an altercation with him. I give a lot of uh-huhs and sures. I get a phone call and go to check it. Girlfriend is calling me from inside the car. I look back at him and say I should probably take this, wish him a good night, and walk towards the driver door. As I turn, he grabs my shoulder, and I can feel every muscle in my body tense up. I turn to him again, and he hugs me, whispering some prayer or another into my ear. The last thing he said to me before I got into the car was, "Be safe, brother. Don't fall for God's traps." I drive off and was too shaken to talk about anything. Eventually we start joking about it, but I'm still a little apprehensive every time we take a trip to LA. A few months after graduating high school, my friend and I took a road trip from South Carolina to North Carolina. On the drive back home around 1 a.m., we stopped at a gas station for coffee to stay awake the rest of the drive home. This gas station was right off the exit with nothing else around it. We both walked to the bathroom. First, we saw an old man smiling and staring at the wall. He stood in there the entire time we were, and didn't say a word. I was waiting on my friend to finish washing his hands, because we were both uncomfortable with this guy standing in the bathroom. My friend starts drying his hands with the dryer, and then the man says, "That blows pretty hard, doesn't it?" My friend laughs nervously, to which the man responds with, "I bet it'll give you a blowjob." On that note, we left the bathroom immediately. We get our coffee and get in line. After a few minutes, I looked over and saw the same old man standing on one of the aisles, just staring at us. We both get to paying, and I noticed that the old man was gone. Not thinking anything of it, we pay for our coffees and start walking back to the car. As soon as we walk out of the door, the old man says, "So where are you boys headed?" "Back home," my friend said. "Can I come along with you?" On that note, we left without another word, the old man walking behind us the whole way. We got in the car, locked the doors, and drove the hell out of there before the old man could get to the car door. Neither of us plan on stopping at that gas station ever again. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night, and I'll see you next time.